hello and good morning, and thanks to everyone who's taken time out their day to join us here today. It's very, very much appreciated and good to see you all. Now, the size of the state in Scotland has become vast. We've now reached a point where it's no longer sustainable in its present form, and the deficit between revenue and expenditure is more than double what it is for the rest of the United Kingdom. And I believe that politicians have a duty to tell the truth about this, a duty to call it out. We simply cannot afford to keep pretending that everything is okay. And put most simply, we as a nation are living beyond our means. Now, during the devolution era, both Labour and the SNP have increased the number and the reach of public sector agencies. These left-wing parties embarked upon a deliberate mission creep. They have supersized the Scottish state. And they've done so at huge financial cost to taxpayers who already pay far too much. There are around 550,000 devolved public sector workers in Scotland. And that's more than any other point in devolution history. And the pay bill, the public sector pay bill, is now £27 billion. And much of this ever-growing state, I believe, seems designed to serve itself rather than to serve the public. And I ask people, do you feel the benefit of this burgeoning army of civil servants? Does it seem like there are more nurses and doctors, teachers and librarians, street cleaners and bin collectors? And do you receive better delivery of essential everyday services? And I believe the answer to all three of those questions is no. Because while the number of devolved state workers is the highest on record, services keep getting worse with declining satisfaction and trust. But how can this be so? And why on earth should we just be expected to put up with it and roll over? Many public sector jobs which give little or no benefit to the public need to be looked at. Scotland's public bodies spend around £1.3 billion each year on backroom corporate functions, departments like communications, commercial, digital and HR. Yes, many of them do useful work, but let's be honest, not all of them. Certainly not £1.3 billion worth. And within the Scottish Government alone, £75 million is spent on policy officers and managers. That's £75 million every single year just to implement policy. And does anybody in the real world think that's good value, considering the SNP's track record of policy disasters? And here are some of the jobs that we are all paying for. Senior Policy Advisor, Ethical Digital Nation. Deputy Director, Human Rights and Mainstreaming. An Our Story Service Lead. And a Play Senior Policy Officer. A new last year from a government whose only real interest is breaking up the United Kingdom, a Head of Constitutional Policy Unit. What does this vast army of public workers, many with obscure titles, actually do for the public? Many appear to exist simply to feed the machinery of state. Then there is the spending on government reports. Since 2015, the SNP government has published 764 strategies and plans. They churn them out at a rate of one every single week. And you've got to listen to some of these titles if you thought the job titles were bad. We've got the NHS Scotland Global Citizenship Framework, setting the direction for global citizenship in NHS Scotland. We've got the Statistics Group Strategic Priorities, taking a feminist approach to international relations. We've got a non-binary equality action plan. We've got a group whose purpose is to discovering meaning, purpose and hope through person-centred well-being and spiritual care, framework. But it's not just these bizarre job titles and the vast library of reports. there are almost 300 working groups supposedly advising the Scottish Government. Now, one of them recently suggested that we should ban pet cats, and even John Swinney was forced to concede that this was plain daft. And of course, some of their insights will be useful, but 300? Really? Let's just take a look at what some of them do. Democracy Matters. Now, its purpose, you'll be glad to hear, is to meet every 6 weeks to consider different aspects of community decision-making model design, as well as how these can be tested with communities and partners in the public and third sector. Valuable work, I'm sure. We've got the Single-Use Disposable Cups Charge Advisory Group. This will provide expertise and advice on the implementation of a minimum charge on single-use disposable beverage cups in Scotland. Just get on with the job. And then we've got the International Development Global South panel. And this panel will enable the Scottish Government to access a wider and more diverse range of voices and experience and lend expertise to 2016 Global Citizenship, Scotland's International Development Strategy. Now, we know the SNP benches at Holyrood have little depth of talent and even less real-world experience. But for these career politicians to subcontract thinking and decision-making to abstract talking shops, I believe, is ridiculous. And the big state circus really does need to end. Because the SNP have created what I call a steroid state. And you might ask, what do I mean by that? Well, it has become much, much bigger. But this is an illusion because it has not got any stronger. The SNP state has expanded rapidly and declined in delivery. It sucks up record sums of cash without doing any better for workers, families and businesses. Taxpayers pay for more but get less. It doesn't provide value. It doesn't effectively deliver public services. Now, since the start of 2025, I've been on a tour of Scottish businesses from small through to medium and large. I've also been having discussions with public service organisations, and I've been listening to what people in the real world actually think. And a frequent observation is that Holyrood has become completely disconnected from real world reality. But I want to be explicit on this point. The criticism I make today is not founded upon political ideology. I don't want to take a wrecking ball to public sector infrastructure. This is about delivering better public services and better value for taxpayers. SNP politicians make so much noise about inputs, but are incapable of doing the hard work to deliver positive outcomes. And as the size of the SNP state keeps growing, Holyrood becomes increasingly detached from people's real-world concerns. The public feels that the Scottish Parliament and the Scottish Government are not doing what they should. They waste too much time, money and energy on things that really don't matter to people. And just days ago, former First Minister Jack McConnell said about devolution, and I quote, "25 years on, our country and our Parliament have stagnated. The energy and creativity too often replaced by bitter partisan politics and government by slogan." He could have added government by press release. Many view Holyrood with indifference, considering it to be concerned only with narrow interests and not with the everyday problems of the Scottish people. Now, we may disagree with Jack McConnell about the solutions, but his assessment about the state of play in Scotland is bang on. Change must happen. Things must be done differently. And I say that not as a Conservative or as a Unionist, but as a proud Scotsman who desperately wants to see my country flourish. That's why I'm doing this job. I know that we are better than this, and I know that we can do better than this. And I also know that we deserve so much better than this. If we remain stuck in this rut, in this state of denial, then nothing will ever improve. There'll be more daft jobs added to the public payroll, more obscure agencies will be created, and many more reports will be generated. If the left-wing parties want to continue to act like ostriches with their heads in the sand, well, that's on them. But if they keep lavishing money on well-padded client state, then things will only get ever worse for everybody else. Scots are already being forced to pay more in income tax, leaving them worse off than workers elsewhere in our United Kingdom. And unless we end this tax injustice, this depression on incentive, those with aspiration will continue to be held back. And instead of unleashing the potential of small businesses and innovative entrepreneurs, we will be stuck with a lethargic economy, an economy in which the only growth is the size of government, is a recipe for impoverishment. And I'll say that again, this cannot continue. Public services that we all rely upon remain on life support, only getting worse. A clean break is needed. No more going along with the same old nonsense. Bold action is the only way to get our public services out of this mess, and that's what my party can deliver. John Swinney cannot ever be the solution because he has been the problem. As Finance Secretary, as Deputy First Minister and as First Minister, he's been in the SNP cabinet for almost 2 decades. He's now trying to plead innocence, but we all know that he is bang to rights. He is personally responsible for wasting taxpayers' money on a colossal scale, and he was either the architect or the midwife of every one of the SNP's catastrophic and costly decisions. Anna Sarwar, he won't provide the answers because he backs the SNP approach. Yes, he might be the darling of the Holyrood bubble, but that counts for nothing with people out there. They just see another template politician who won't rock the boat or make unpopular decisions. Anna Sarwar is a politician who backs most of the SNP's nonsense. He backed Nicola Sturgeon's gender self-ID madness. He supported Humza Yousaf's dangerous hate crime law. He will abstain on John Swinney's damaging budget. Take away the constitutional issue and you take away the only real difference between Labour and the SNP. And it's only my party that stands for change in Scotland, a new way forward. We are willing to make difficult calls that others find too hard. We will represent everybody who just wants government to do the essentials well, not everything badly. The Scottish Government's Scottish Conservative Party are being honest with the public. I will not shy away from telling hard truths like John Swinney and Anna Sarwar. They will never come clean, let alone roll up their sleeves and do anything about Scotland's supersized state. The Scottish Conservatives can do it. Let's do the simple stuff well. No thrills, no hot air, no nonsense, just common sense delivery. Stick to what the government is there for. Make public services efficient, affordable and effective. Focus on the needs of the people using the services, not the self-interest of those in charge. Make promises that can be kept. John Swinney's government is too weak to tackle vested interests. The Scottish Conservatives would take them on without any hesitation. And here's where we would start. We would introduce our own version of the Department of Government Efficiency. Yes. A Scottish agency of value and efficiency would be tasked with cutting waste, identifying savings, and delivering better value for taxpayers. So I say, save for Scotland.
Yes.
And in addition, government by talking shop must end. Let's treat service delivery with the efficiency of business, not some chin-stroking debating society. We would axe at least 1/3 of the SNP's 300 working groups. Instead, frontline delivery would be our primary focus. Useless jobs with silly job titles would be scrapped and replaced by roles that have a demonstrable benefit to the public. A time of dire NHS waiting times and sinking school performances, spending more on government spin doctors is an absolute scandal. And to shift the balance, the Scottish Conservatives would introduce a new public spending rule, a frontline first guarantee. And this would ensure that the Scottish Government's default requirement is to spend on the front line of our NHS, police and schools rather than on bureaucrats in Edinburgh. And because money is tight, every expense must be justified. In the hard-nosed world of business, this is called zero-based accounting, so that each year the books are reset to zero. This means that every pound spent is subject to annual examination, assessment and justification. We would introduce the same business principle to get spending under control. And when the government does make a policy decision, we believe they should just get on with the job. No more faffing about with reams of strategies and plans. Stop producing plans that won't happening. Just start delivering. Of course, my views on improving our public services will not enthrall the chattering classes. I won't get the stamp of approval from those who do very nicely indeed out of Scotland's big state. And that's a good thing, because those reactions will simply confirm that we are right. If these bold reforms are brought forward, our public services will be able to recover and to thrive. Every public pound will be treated with respect. Government will be agile and focused on frontline needs. We'll be able to invest in teachers to ensure they have a full-time job, invest in nurses so that they stay in Scotland's NHS, and invest in workers to fix roads and collect bins. Our focus and delivery will mean that when children go to school, they'll get a world-class education, no matter their background. When people go to E&A, they'll be seen on time. And when a young person starts work, they'll have opportunity to prosper, no matter what part of the country they're from. Only the Scottish Conservatives are putting forward a bold new vision. We are the only party who will do things differently. We don't buy the SNP and Labour left-wing view that a big state is always best. We know that people just want some common sense for a change. We get it. I get it. We understand why people are sick fed up with seeing their taxes being wasted by out-of-touch politicians. Scotland's political establishment has not yet grasped that the world is changing, and in fact, it has already changed. John Swinney and Anas Sarwar both think they can keep doing the same thing over and over again, but expect different outcomes, which, of course, as you know, is the very definition of insanity. And this is why Holyrood has lost its way, and the public have become jaded, thinking that change is impossible. Whole communities in Scotland feel left behind. But I refuse to accept this surrender to decline. I'm determined to put up a fight, to deliver change, to show the people of Scotland that there is another way, a better way. This is possible, this is achievable, and we can get Scotland's public services working again. Thank you.